Hello, guys. Once more, welcome to the You Can Be Anything podcast. Your girl Soso Babes here on Facebook and YouTube Live. Thank you all so much for joining me. You all know what I do. I go out there, I get those guests. I come on here for us to talk with them, to chat with them. And hey, it's Saturday morning, and I am honored to have one of my pioneer guys. Why do I call him a pioneer guest? This is somebody that trusted me 100%, created a time and came on the podcast as my third guest on this podcast as 2 years ago. They trusted Social Babes. They believe that, hey, even though Social Babes is just starting, she can still do it. And they trusted my platform. Hey, today on the podcast, we have Raoul Fossi. Raoul is an old friend and he accepted to come to the podcast again. Earlier today, I posted my previous episode I had with Raul 2 years ago. So if you have not listened to that, again, please make sure that as you're listening today, go back and watch Raul and I 2 years ago. Thank you so much, Raul, for saying yes to my invitation. Thank you so much for accepting again to be a guest on the You Can Be Anything podcast. And hey, man, welcome to the You Can Be Anything podcast. Please, round of applause for Raul. I'm happy to have you, man.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be back. It's nice to be back.
Hey,
Full,
it
full
feels
360.
great.
Yes. It's good to be
Yes,
back.
guys, as I was saying earlier on, this is Raoul Fossi. Raoul is a paysan, Raoul is a Cameroonian that we went to high school together, but I was in front of him. We were not classmates. I was ahead of him. But yes, cool young man. I reconnected with him later on, and having conversations with him has just been amazing. And when I started this podcast 3 years ago, for the first couple of months, I did solo episodes. Then I decided to bring in guests to talk to people, and Raul was my third guest on the podcast. So, hey, check out my website, www.solangechair.com. You'll see my interview with Raul is also on my Solange Chair platform, YouTube platform. You'll see our previous interview there, and you can also catch up with us today. Hey, Raul, thanks again for coming back to the podcast. And for those people who've not had a chance to listen to you, to our previous episode, or maybe they are seeing this fresh, nicely cut, fine boy for their first time, tell them a little bit about Raul. Who would you say Raul Fossi is?
uh, so no, thanks for having me. It's nice to be back. It's nice to have much better video quality compared to the first time we did this. I can see myself clearly. Yeah, this is much better than what we did the first time around. Um, who am I? I think you've said it all, right? Raul. I'm a very passionate African, and I've recently started really emphasizing the American side of it. I think for the longest time, when people ask me, when I met people, I introduced myself as an African. Somehow, as time went on, I thought about it, and I've decided that I need to start acknowledging my American side a lot more, because a big part of who I am today is because of
He's
America,
American.
and I have to own that. So, African American, entrepreneur, engineer, entrepreneur. I guess you could say failed entrepreneur to an extent, still growing entrepreneur, um, very free thinker. Yeah, that's it. Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. I
There
tried
is
to
more
remember.
to him than what you can hear, but don't worry. As we go into the conversation, you're going to learn a lot more. All right, don't mind. There's always this modest thing that happens when people come on to, when you put people on the spot to talk about themselves, the probability that they just become modest is like, it is so high. Everybody is just like, oh, I'm just this cool guy. That's not what they are. They are more than that. I keep telling you, people, my guys, you have to give yourself more accolades. You have to sing your praises. We need to hear those praises.
I'll tell you the one thing that I will say about myself is that the one thing that I can say about myself, praiseworthy. is that I am interesting.
You are interesting.
So,
This is great. We lost Raoul there for a second, but he'll be right back.
sorry, I had a call coming in. Yeah,
Please tell those people that for now, for the next hour, you belong to Social Babes. I'm in control right now. Tell them to wait.
I will. I'll tell him. I'll tell him.
Okay. Awesome. So again, one of the reasons I brought Raul back today, or I invited him back to the platform today, is because I wanted us to talk about his ventures. 2 years ago, when I talked to Raul, Raul was on that mission, on that journey of heading back to Cameroon. This is somebody that has lived in the US. As of when I spoke to you, was about 12 years, right?
Mhm.
This is somebody that's lived in the US for that long. And at some point, he decided to say, hey, what he calls in his 10 rules of life, giving back. Right. He decided to go back home. He decided to go back to Cameroon. Not just go back to Cameroon to go sit in his parents' home, but he decided to go back to Cameroon as an entrepreneur. If you're listening to him, you would have probably heard him describe himself as a field entrepreneur, which is what I don't agree with. I look at it as a lesson on the journey. Right. So Raul is a founder. He owned the company Skyview Solutions. And before we go into Skyview, because most of our conversation, the conversation we had last time, Raul, was centered about you as a person and also centered about around Skyview. So for those who are watching us today, please tell them a little bit about your concept. What was this Skyview solution concept about? What was the problem you identified in the market, and how were you going to solve this problem?
Yes. So first of all, I agree with you. The term failed is not appropriate. It's not failed. It's just entrepreneurship, right? And part of entrepreneurship is that journey, is ups and downs. So that's what it is. Being an entrepreneurship, it's a lot of trial and error.
Yep.
So Skyview, yeah. So Skyview was a big project. It started that has evolved over time a lot. Started with drones, drone technology, construction industry. Eventually developed into software development um, solution for the construction industry. Uh, so I think a lot of people that know about Skyview know the app that we built and launched in Cameroon, and a couple of other African countries. So it was an evolution. It was an evolution. At the time, the vision was really to serve a purpose, a specific purpose to resolve a specific problem that we have in Africa, which is that a lot of people building homes or managing construction projects don't have visibility, and so sometimes they get duped or they get fed wrong information about how the progress is the project that is advancing, and we
Mhm.
wanted to give people the ability to access their job site from wherever they are. And we built an application that did just that, and was actually pretty successful when we launched it. So that's what it was about.
Yeah, and the reason Skyview intrigued me, again, I'm someone I love to think a little bit too. I love to venture into the things that are not my everyday. And when I heard of drones before, I used to wonder, what do these things do? I remember when I spoke to Raul about drones, when he was telling me about what a drone can do. And since then, I've definitely gotten better. I have met other people who are doing amazing, taking amazing landscape pictures with drones and stuff. And I was like, whoa, Raul was actually the first person who really break down this whole drones thing with me. And I did feel that it was a great project because there are a lot of people. We speak to people every day, people who are venturing, people who want to build back home, people who are complaining, oh, I invested back home and I cannot see my return on investment, right? You have people who say, hey, I sent money back home, I'm building a house, and by the time I went back home, nothing was there. That's just because they did not have a means to keep tab with what is happening or how far the construction workers or the construction company. And that's why Skyview, the solution that you're bringing up with Skyview, that's why it intrigued me. That's why I was like, hey, this is a beautiful project. This is something that people need, not only in Cameroon, but across Africa. especially those who live in the diaspora, an opportunity to travel back home often while they are working on a project. Now, when you talk about Skyview, you kind of refer to it as worse. What's up? What's up with Skyview?
So, okay. So I think for the past year, I haven't really communicated much on Skyview, and I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, like, hey, where is Skyview? How's it doing? So for now, as of end of 2020, as early 2022, no, as of early 2023, um, I actually scaled down Skyview completely. Our operations are scaled back. Our team was significantly reduced, and we've cut back to doing just some basic things that we started the company with. Cut back the team, um, and the project, like the app that we built and launched at the end of 2021, we actually had to suspend the app as well because after the launch, so I'm not sure how familiar people are with what the app actually did, like I explained, but when we built the app and launched it at the end of towards the middle of 2022, it did very well. Good returns. We had actually had a lot of projects. I think the first 2 or 3 months of the app, we had about 60 projects on the apps on the app.
Wow.
Um, but as the app, and again, it was designed specifically really to serve the market. But as the app started doing really well, we realized that our software or a program, the design of the app wasn't robust enough to handle all the volume that it needed. And
Oh,
it started, the app started having issues.
started crashing.
And yes, and we had anticipated that we were going to have to. We knew that the app was just like it was a what's the term? It's kind of a pilot
Mm-hmm.
app. Like it was
Yeah.
supposed to just be a working. What's the term for it?
So you put in like a beta
Uh,
form to test it and make sure that it worked before you open it. But did you open it to
exactly.
the public already? Was it open to the
Yes, we
public?
did.
Oh,
Yes, it
okay.
was. Yes, it was. We opened it to the public, and he did very well. Within 2 months, we had, like I said, we had 60 projects on the app, and a lot of good feedback. But then, as we got more and more projects, and we started having more and more issues, we had to start reaching out to external resources to
The
support
developers.
with the program. Yeah, work with some teams in India and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But we did not have enough money to support the maintenance and the
To
really
open up the
the
skill.
making
Yeah.
make the app more robust. And really quickly, we got overwhelmed with the amount of work and money that it required to keep it going.
Hmm.
Ultimately, we knew we needed to rebuild the app altogether. What we did was a working prototype. That's what it was. It was a working prototype.
Yeah.
We knew that, hey, we needed to launch it, but to go from the working prototype to the actual app is something that we were not able to do both financially and technically. And before we know it, we were drowning in just financial stress, and then customer stress and stuff like that. Um, and I decided to pull the trigger on the app and suspend it. And it's been suspended since then.
Wow. One of the reasons, again, there's a ton of reasons why I'm talking to Raul today. And one of them is his willingness to talk about his challenges as someone who decided to pack his bags after testing the American dream to go back to Douala, to go back to Cameroon. And one of the reasons, or again, I keep telling you one of the reasons, there's a ton of those reasons I'm talking to him today because of his openness. And we just hear him talk about this app and the whole Skyview solution and how they got overwhelmed with the numbers. Again, based on my little IT knowledge, is just probably the skill that what the app was built to support. Probably a lot more people got on there that they had built their
Yeah,
scalability. So again, of course it will crash, and of course you're going to need more maintenance, and maintenance is not cheap, right? And thinking about this, When I talked to you 2 years ago, you were looking for investors. You had opened up and said, hey, one of the challenges or one of the mistakes you made as an entrepreneur was you felt like you wanted to you could do this on your own. At that time, 2 years ago, that was one of the challenges you talked about, like one of the errors, the mistakes you brought out, right? And so in that on that show that day, you did open up and say, hey, you're open to investors. And I would say that as a result of probably kicking this off with like Raoul alone, like doing this, like, hey, this is my business, this is my project. I'm not sure how much funds you had. And that is probably why when you face this challenge, you are financially not stable enough to take care of it, which is what I want you to talk about. There are a lot of people out here who want to do stuff. They have great ideas. They want to indulge in different kinds of businesses. There's a ton of different business problems out there that many of us have solutions to. I want you to talk a little bit about your experience wanting to do this by yourself and opening up your business idea to the public for investors to come in. Let's please share your experience a little bit on that.
Yes, you're right. So my mindset around money and finances really evolved over time. Initially, when I started business, I had the mindset of like, I want everything to myself. I don't want anybody to own any part of my company. It's a very naive way of thinking. As I understood entrepreneurship a little more, I understood that I needed partnership. I needed a lot of money, and so for that, you need to allow people to invest into your business. And I told you 2 years ago I was looking for investors, and I did find some investors actually. And I found a group of investors that participated in the development of the application.
Okay.
So the finance part of it, I think it was close to $100,000 that I got from them, in addition to what I had to finance part of the development of the application. But then the part that I missed, I think the part that I underestimated is I underestimated. I wasn't as versed with application development as I should have been at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I underestimated how much I put so much focus on developing the application, and I underestimated how much it would take to maintain it, how much resources and how much finances you need to actually keep an application functional, with a lot of users, with a lot of input coming from all directions, um, and a lot of issues that can come about, and then doing updates and as because you're constantly updating the application, and that's the part of the project that I really 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 underestimated, and that was
Mm-hmm.
really part. Um, I think it was out of ignorance. I wasn't as in hindsight, I realized that I wasn't as prepared as I should have been,
Yeah.
in this particular front. And I think that's part of entrepreneurship. So, like when I spoke to you 2 years ago, that was actually my second go around, right? I had gone home and it got tough, ran out of money. I came back to the States, um, and that's when I started working on the app because I actually left the US in 2019. When I spoke to you, I had come back. I had made one mistake at the time, in the way that I thought about the market and what people needed. So I came back. I said, okay, let me start from the bottom and actually build the start from the problem and build towards a solution.
Yeah.
Versus the first time around, I started from the solution and I said, let me try to make it fit the problem. So I learned that lesson, and then when I came back the second go around, I knew, okay, I need to do something different, which is when we built the app. I needed some more money, so I got the money. I built the app. The app was very successful back home when we launched it. But then the part that I missed the second time around was how much money I needed to keep the app going, to actually
Sorry.
update the application. Um, and and that's what eventually was a bigger problem at the end, and the reason why we had to suspend it. And I mean, I invested. I don't know that I can describe enough how much of myself and my time and my money I invested into building that application.
Yeah.
Um, and and my team, and I mean just the work that went into it. We built it from scratch, not from anything that was out there. We actually developed every single part of it. Um, and one of the toughest decisions was to accept that I needed to shut it down. It was very difficult,
Well,
thinking about all the money that I put into it and everything that we've done, for 2 years, and all the money that was invested. Being able to recognize that, hey, I can either try to keep it going and just keep drowning myself,
yeah.
and kind of kill the reputation and just all these things that were going to go down with it, or I can accept that at this point, after everything I've tried, we're better off just stopping for now, and reassessing, um, and then coming doing it better, down the line. So that's what we
What
did.
was going through your mind at that point? Because hey, man, there's a lot that you put into this app, into Skyview in general, right? So if anybody has watched your videos on Skyview, like the things that you've done, there is a lot that you put. So when you finally made that decision, and this is again when we talk about things like this, the whole idea is sharing our experiences. This is something that a lot of people struggle with. When you realize that, hey, this thing is not working, or maybe I need to re-strategize, I need to put a pause and re-strategize. A lot of people would just drown into it and it would take them all away. It would drain every little penny out of your pocket before they realize that they could stop and maybe revamp or maybe re-strategize or whatever you need to do. What was going through your mind? How was that process, that decision making? Again, I know this is me sticking needles into your brain, but how was it for you? What was that feeling like to finally say, you know what, Skyview, I love you so much, you're my baby, but we got to put a little stop and we see and think of next steps. How was that decision making for you?
It was very difficult. I mean, I'm not gonna sit
I
here and
bet.
claim like it was easy. It was very difficult, very difficult. It took me a while, and I actually got in a lot of debt before I even pulled the trigger. But I think one thing I've learned over time as an entrepreneur is that there's a fine line between being ambitious and being irresponsible, right? And I never want to be irresponsible. And you start crossing the line of irresponsibility when you start having debts that you can't pay back,
Oh, yeah.
when you're unable to honor your commitments to your family, when when you're not really moving forward. I'm very conscious of that, and I never want to cross that line into like, hey, I'm just now just being reckless and irresponsible. So that's something that I always kept in the back of my mind. Now, um, as an entrepreneur, also, I think I have I've learned to accept. I think I've learned to accept the way that life happens a certain way. When I decided to embark on this journey, I knew that there was a chance that it wasn't going to work, and I was okay with it. I accepted that this like there's no guarantee. You could do everything you've done, and it still doesn't get to where you need to get to, and that's okay, right? That's part of life. And I think people that want to be entrepreneurs, or it's just not entrepreneurship, it could be anything in life, relationships,
Anything.
business, your job, anything. You know, sometimes we struggle in these things because we expect perfection, we expect things to always work out, but they don't always. And we have, and that's why I told you it was important for me to have a conversation around the things that didn't work out. Because you remember you called me, I think we talked a year ago or maybe a year and a half ago, and you were like, yeah, just when I was launching the app and things are going really well, and you were like, hey, and I want you to come and talk about how things are going. I told you, wait, I think let's launch it and see how it goes. A few months from now, we can have a conversation on how it actually went. Because what I never want to do is mislead people about how things go. I
Mhm.
want to be honest about, hey, here's the realities of the field, and that way people have a better idea, and if ever they want to do something similar.
Yep.
um yeah.
So again, it was a tough decision for you, guaranteed. Now, if you don't mind, let's that's this whole decision. I remember when I was like, "Hey, Raul, this is Skyview. I've seen all what you're doing. and I reached out for that chat and you said, hey, to wait a little bit. And what would you say? Um, I don't, how can I put this in a way? What would you say are some of the things that, apart from the fact that the scalability of the app, right? What would you say, apart from your app, are some of the challenges that you believe might have led to Skyview taking a break? What would you say are some of the difficulties that you face, apart from the app that we've just spoken about, the scalability?
So before I go into the other difficulties, I'll say this. I'll say that I think in society, we have a tendency to push blame, right? It's
Mhm.
easier to push blame. Even when I just went back home initially, when people asked me why things didn't work out, I would say, oh, because of Cameroon, it's so difficult. The system is built against you. And, it's just like you can't win. And as time went on, I realized that that's not the right way to look at it. I think part of doing anything is how much preparation you put into it and how much planning. And if you go into an environment, you should be prepared and you should plan ahead. You should know everything you should expect, at least to an extent, and prepare for it. So by me not being able to succeed in a certain environment, even if the environment impacted me, it's still a failure on me as an entrepreneur because I wasn't as prepared as I should have been. It's like going to the jungle and saying, "Oh, I didn't expect the lion. Like I knew there's a lion, but then oh, it's the lion's fault. Why? I lost my leg." It's like, well, you knew you're going to the jungle, so you should have brought a gun, a spare gun, in case something happened. And if you didn't, then ultimately it's your fault. It's not the lion's fault. And that's how I started looking at all these challenges.
Mhm.
So, like I said, the biggest thing was money. I'll tell you by far the biggest my biggest challenge was finances. I think I know that if we had the right funding and the right financing, Skyview Access that we launched would have been very successful. It was very successful from the onset. Just struggled to maintain it. So that was the big one, finances. And one thing I always tell people, if you're trying to do business, make sure that your finances are straight because that impacts everything you do.
Yeah.
The second thing is um, I think labor. One of the issues that we had down later on is that we started losing our workforce. Um, three of my team members left and went to Canada. Um, and
The
they were
travel.
very, 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 yes, they're very, very, very important parts of my team. Actually, very crucial members of our team, part of the development application, the app development team, the developer, two of the developers, and one of the project managers left, and that really hit us hard, um, and that's a big problem in Cameroon. Um, I think myself, like I said, I wasn't as knowledgeable on app development as I should have been. There's a lot of things that I didn't understand. I relied on my team, but on my end, I could have done better. Let's see what else. Yeah, I think those are the main things that held us back.
So, talking in the perspective of someone who has that, a lot of people do like, hey, there is brain drain. Hey, go back to Cameroon, go back to Africa, go back to Nigeria, Ghana, Botswana, wherever it is. There is always that shout. There are those people who come to say, hey, don't come and stay here, go back. They themselves are not thinking about it. They come and they put their heads out, they shout it, and they go back because they themselves are not even ready to do it. A lot of people are scared. And I said this during my last interview with you 2 years ago. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people are thinking about it. I believe that a lot of people have that desire, that will to do it, but they are so scared of what they're going to meet out there, right? If again, when somebody leaves Cameroon, I'm using my country for example, and comes to a place like the US, there is a lot of mental shift There is a lot. There is a change in mentality, the way you look at work, the way you look at life in general, the way you look at even employees. Remember, I gave you a kudos when we talked about how your employees then worked, right? That is because you did not take them as like, hey, you work for me, this. You actually gave them that flexibility. You were measuring not how many hours they came to sit at the office, but you were measuring their productivity. What were they doing, right? That is a mental shift. That is one of those things that you probably have learned, as I have, living in the Western world and seeing how things are done. And those are the things that we try to take back home. These are the things that we try to make sure that it's not about how many hours you clock in, but how productive you are as an employee. That was something that I really appreciated a lot when you spoke to me then. When we are talking about your challenges and all of this, you're talking about losing part of your workforce. People, we had employees who left the country. 100%, that is a big problem that Cameroon has, or many other African countries have. When people learn these skills, right? Again, I'm somebody that preaches on skills, like learning skills, again, to not just focus on what we got from our bachelor's degrees or master's degrees, but also focus on learning, excuse me, on learning skills that are marketable. But then when these people learn skills, what happens most of the time is the moment they grab a visa, they are gone. They don't stay in Cameroon. They don't. Most of the time, they're gone. Right. And I'm happy to hear that that's one of you're sharing that as one of the challenges. Again, it's not a happy situation, but excuse me, bringing it up as one of the things that you experience. Of course, I do appreciate how you talk about it. Now, business in Cameroon as an entrepreneur, packing your bags, going back to Cameroon, will you venture that again? Would you ever call me again to say, so I'd go me back for pay? Is that something that you're thinking of doing again? I know you've done it, you went, had your experiences, had your challenges, and you came back. Are you thinking of doing that again? Or are you working towards something like that again?
Uh, yes, absolutely. Actually, and that's why I tell people all the time, doing business, not just business, like whatever you do in life, it has to be part of a certain vision, right? You have to have direction or certain vision about that drives your decisions. And I'm very passionate about just Africa. I could stay in America and make a pretty good living, I always have. But I think I'm at a point in my life now where I don't define success by money, right? I define success by impact.
Yep.
And so everything that has happened so far has been learning, as difficult as it's been, and I mean, and it's been very difficult. I speak here and I smile today, but last year was a very difficult year for me, very very difficult on every level. But that didn't take away from my vision, which is to be back home and to help drive change, to help bring about whatever what contribution I can contribute to making things better. So it's not now I have to match my other goals to it right now. So I'm not going to go back this year or next year because I need to settle down a little bit and get my stability, get a little more stability under me. Get like we talked about, get a family, get a couple more kids before I can do all this craziness. But my plan hasn't changed. It's just that I have, through my initial experiences, I have learned a lot about how to go about it and how to go about it in a more sustainable way. Right. So now, as I'm working on the plan to go back some few years from now, I am clearer on how I need to go about it to make sure that I can sustain it. The things that I need to learn, the other areas that I want to venture in, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so it's not just Skyview. Probably have at least 5 other projects in my mind that I like to get into, and one Skyview was more IT. Um, I have a lot of projects around food processing, um, food transformation that I like to implement, and that's actually my domain, the area which I work in America. So again, I have a a lot of other projects that I like to put in place, and that's definitely happening in these coming years. It's just that now I will approach it differently, tapping into some of the knowledge that I acquired, starting with the other stuff that I did. And one thing that I would like to add to that is that I think it's important that people understand this. Like you talked about going back home and doing business. Um, there are different types of businesses, right? So there's certain that are a little more complex where you're trying to create things. There are things that are a little more standard where you're, you know, create buying and selling. So different types of business. But whatever the case is, I think before you get into business in Cameroon, I said this during the first interview and I say it again, you have to ask yourself why you want to do it, right?
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself why you have, because it's a very important question, and ask yourself if you have if how comfortable you are with losing money.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people are just not, some people just don't have what it takes to be an entrepreneur, because emotionally and mentally, it could really hurt you. You know, yeah, it can really drain you if you don't have what it takes.
Yeah.
And it's not just for everyone. So it's a very important thing that people need to be aware of. And I think you can be successful without being an entrepreneur. This notion that everyone has to have a side business or this, I think that's ridiculous. I think we're all different. Some people can be entrepreneurs, some cannot be, and you can be just as successful, or if not even more successful than people that have businesses with your career or other things like that. So,
Yeah, it's all the concept of not everything is for everybody, right? People can do a
yep,
variety of things. So when you come out
yep,
here to talk about things, it's just like when I come to talk about tech. Not everybody can do tech. Not everybody, it's not for
hmm
everyone. So we put it out there, and you, if the shoe fits, you pick it up. But you can't go around forcing people to become something that they don't want to become, because it's not even going to work, right? And I was thinking about something while you were talking, and your measure for success. That is very impressive. What so you if you don't have money, Raoul, if you don't get money, who will even look at you as a successful man? Not, and when you talk, sometimes you sound like you're even man, you're a young man, and you're talking about measuring success with impact and not how much is in your bank account. That is growth. I bet you that is another level of growth, because to most of us out here, success to us is how much money I have. It's what kind of car I drive. It's the kind of house I live in, right? That is how, I mean, maybe I'm not exaggerating, but 90% of people think that success is based on what you can show of the outside. What can you show? What do you bring to the table and stuff like that, right? This is you talking about success. You've gotten to the level where you no longer measure success by those things, but by impact. Raul, when did you grow?
So let's be clear about something. I'm not saying I don't like I don't like money.
I know you like
I'm not
money,
saying I don't
but looking at
like. I'm
impact
not
is
saying,
another
no,
level.
no, but I agree. So I'm not saying I think money is very important, and that's why I had to come back to the States. I like it's very important, but um, I think as like, for example, the reason why I am here today, like I told you, I think oftentimes people will come in and will only talk about their experiences when they succeed, right? Or
Mhm.
they will not talk about the times when they were down. They'll wait till they actually go up and be like, oh, I was down. I went through this. I went through that.
And now I'm up again.
And
Raul is not
and
even
now
up
I'm up
again,
again.
but he's talking
Yes. And
about
not
it.
exactly. And it was important to me. That's why I'm here, because my success is about, if I can share my experiences and help someone else learn from it, to
Mhm.
make better decisions and be better, then that to me is success. That's why I'm okay with presenting my failures, quote unquote, um, because at the end of the day, the way I look at it is like all these goals that we have is like a journey, right? I set objectives, and somebody else might have the same objectives as me,
Mhm.
and if I'm able to get halfway to this specific objective, and then I end at that halfway, and I understand how to get to halfway, and I can share with other people how to get to that halfway point, then someone else can start that journey halfway and finish, be able to start halfway and get to the finish line, um, by leaning on the knowledge that I got to get to the halfway point. And if they get that, if people can get that and be able to get to the goal, then to me that's success, right? That's how I look at it. And I think it's just an evolution over time. I think as I got more comfortable, as I started thinking more about my purpose, and I realized that, you know, because I could, if I had stayed in America for the past 5 years, then I would be in a completely different place than I am now. But again, the things that I did and the impact that I had on the people that have been around, that have been a part of it, um, has been tremendous. If I could go back, I would do the exact same thing. Um, and yeah, as I sit here today, I smile. I'm happy. I don't dwell on any of the past. I don't dwell on the money that was lost. I don't dwell on the fact that my bank account right now is empty. I just, I
No, you
keep a
cannot be saying
positive
your bank
mindset
account is
and
empty
I
when we
keep
are
pushing.
hoping to find you a wife now. Come on. How did those girls are
See,
gonna run away? You can
see,
how can you say on a live show that your bank account is empty when I'm
it
hoping that we'll
is.
find you a babe? Eh?
No, but
You
it's the
need to
truth.
run
But
away.
but here's one thing I'll tell you. Here's one thing I'll tell you, and this is very important. Is that I think oftentimes in life we we define ourselves by things, right? It's like we define ourselves by money, by our status, by our house, by our car, by our job, to where if ever we lose all those things, then it's almost like we get lost. We lose our identity, and that's very dangerous, because when it happens, people just get lost. And so I really, really do not define myself by those things. Now, when I meet people, I'm comfortable with being who I am. And if someone judges me by my finances right now or whatever the case may be, then that's okay. But I don't, that's just not how I define myself. And I'm okay with the perception that comes with it.
Oh, Raoul Fossi. This guy is an interesting man. Like he is an interesting man. Very sweet guy to talk to. And each time I talk to him, I'm always like, okay, what is he up to this time around? And some time ago, we talked about him hosting. I love the way he sounds on mic when I listen to him talk. So he has the voice. So I was like, hey, man, you have an amazing voice to listen to. And he was like, yeah, Solange, I'm thinking of starting a podcast. I'm like, yes, go, yes, go. And finally, he started, right? So his first episodes, the first episodes of his podcast will be going live. There are a lot of people who have reached out to me about starting their own podcast. A lot of people do have shows like this, but those shows don't get to the podcast platforms. And I always encourage people like, hey, put it out there on Apple Podcasts, on all those other things. Put it even if it's on YouTube. YouTube has a podcast version. I'll just do something. It's good to do the live shows like I'm doing now. So I'm doing a live podcast, a video podcast, and I still have the audio version of it recording as we talk. But then I can remember when Raul and I started talking about him getting a podcast on his own. I was like, boy, I will listen to your podcast anytime, any day. First, because you have the tone, the baritone. Where is my friend Roy Mama? I wanted her to come in. I think she's busy. I wanted her to join because she gets carried away with your kind of tone, the baritone that just drives her nuts. So I wanted her to come hear you, but I've not seen her join. But again, that's great. Raul, when we talked last time, again, one of the ways that I have always introduced you is the guy who you have some on, I don't know if realistic or realistic ties into Scotland. That is something that you and I are common on. We are not from so, but our relationship in Scotland, if we talk about so, somebody will probably think that we have, it's something that is common between you and I, the ties we have with so, right? And we talked about your favorite meal. Again, do you? I know, but again, I know because I'm special. What about the rest of the world knowing what your favorite meal is?
It's Kati Kati now. Anybody that knows me should know this.
This boy
That's
likes
standard.
fufu.
If you want me to visit you, just make some Kati Kati. I'll be there. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
but I've had to open it up now. I've had to open it up because I've almost given up on some people. And the last person that if somebody has ties with the fund of salt, they should let me know because that's the person I need to go talk to see how I can get
You,
some connection.
you need to talk to
Uh,
him. I hear he's a nice guy. If you go there, he'll give
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah. And if
advice.
somebody has ties, I need to contact him to see if he can hook me up with the salt woman because other than that, all my salt friends have disappointed me. Terrible, terrible.
I can't wait for the day I see a flyer that Raoul found a wife. And I look at that wife, is a salt girl. I cannot wait. So where are my salt people? Where are you people? You have a brother here that is willing to have one of you. So I do appreciate you all
Yeah.
for joining. I do see the comments. Thank you all so much for joining. Again, my chat with Raoul, it's more than just a live show. It is a reconnection for us too, just for Raoul and I too. It's an opportunity for us to also just have a chat. And the good thing is we decided to do this online and just have a conversation about what has been happening. We've spoken a lot about Skyview solutions. Again, what went well, what are some of the things that you identified as an entrepreneur, and again, I'm very intrigued to hear that if you were to do this again, you would. It takes some level of courage to want to go back to fix the things that, which means your sky view vision is still there, but
Hmm.
what you need to do is just re-strategize and go back there, because the truth is that was such a beautiful project. I did feel like there was a lot that that project could bring in our community, in our country, and Africa in general, right? It was a beautiful project. And one of the things you said in on our shows was, when you at then, I think that was 2021 or so, at that time, when you left your the company you were working for at that time, you were intrigued on how much they wanted to take back to Africa, and you asked yourself the question, why are these people the ones who are going back to Africa to bring these things when we, the Africans, we have that skill, we have the ways to do these things. And that's a topic that I find very interesting. And if you don't mind, I'm not asking you any specific question, but just give a view on what you think about this whole concept of Western companies coming into Africa and hiring us to do the work that we ourselves can do, right? That we can take back home and do ourselves, but we get hired by them to work in our country. What's your
Yeah,
general
that's
thought around that?
no, that's a very, very, very important point. A very important point. So, for those that don't know, my background is mechanical engineering, and I worked in management, in factory management for many years. So I've done a few things in corporate America. And in 2019, you can say that I was pretty high up there in terms of like in the corporate world, and I was part of a lot of conversation around like long-term vision, like 5, 10-year plans of companies, and a lot of them were geared around Africa. A lot of them were like, "Hey, okay, how do we get closer to Africa? How do we?" And I was actually part of some projects in Ghana and in Ivory Coast. So I spent some time there. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that um, it's good. It's nice that we get to come here and get knowledge and learn what we need to learn and grow, develop ourselves. But I thought it would be really sad if while we're here, like we all left our country, our continent, and came to the West, and while we're here, the Westerners went back to our countries and developed it and built companies,
And
and
hire
then brought us back to our countries to work
to
for
work
them. Like to
this
me,
companies.
fundamentally, I had a problem with that. I was like, I'm like, especially because when they'll build the companies, we're going to run them. We're going to do everything for them down there, which is what I kind of did in Ivory Coast. And I thought, I, I always ask myself, like, what would I tell my kids about why, like how would I explain to my kids that in our countries, we are intelligent, we have the knowledge, but then we were not able to do these things to where now we have to, a lot of the ownership of what we have,
Yes,
comes
from the
from
West.
outside.
Mhm.
And yeah, and to me it was so important that I said, even if I'm not successful, which is a good possibility, I want to try.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I want to be able to tell my kids, you know what? Here, I saw it. I did my best. I tried to get people to get to see it too, and maybe we fell short, or maybe not. But ultimately, I think Africans have to be aware of it. If you go to Cameroon now, a lot of the companies, the construction companies, are foreign. I'd say probably all the companies that we work with, a lot of them were foreign. Um, Even some projects that were on our platform, imported project managers from
Wow.
Turkey. Oh, it's insane what you see
They
when you're
brought
back
in
home.
project managers with all the project
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
man.
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. There's a lot, contractors from overseas, companies from overseas. When you go to like the high end side of the bigger projects in Cameroon are led by foreign companies.
Mhm.
A lot of the manufacturing plants, the factories in Cameroon are owned by foreign companies, and and I think that's something that we just have to be aware of, and we have to take action and say, hey, we have knowledge, we know all these things, we run these companies over here,
Yeah.
and all it takes is for us to say, you know what, let's try to do it ourselves back home, uh, because that's really what the future is, and I don't know that enough people, um, you know, have the that mindset and the courage to say, hey, let's try to tackle this, because really the future of Africa, of Cameroon, um, is happening, is going to be built now. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's a very important point.
That's a scary reality. Like, that
Yeah,
is a
very important
scary
point.
reality. Wow. And to think that sometimes when you talk to Cameroonians, the people who are open minded investors, right? They tell you about how hard it is to run a business, to invest back in Cameroon. Again, I've not soak my feet in the deep waters of investing in Cameroon. I've tried my own little thing. You talked about integrity when somebody is an entrepreneur, and that is something that I've been burnt a little bit, because the people, like, you see somebody that you know and you choose to invest in their vision, and you expect that this is, again, you know how, like, I'll know you, I'll be like, okay, this is Raoul, this is somebody that I trust, and I choose to invest in your vision. But then 5 6 months down the lane, you go side, you just disappear, right? That is a scare, right? I've been burned twice. A lot of people have been burned multiple times. And I think that that is the big fear. We, again, talking from my own perspective, a lot of people are worried about putting their money, because people, one of the things that happens around here, again, when I'm talking, let me use the example of the US. People work really hard around here because US has that opportunity. You can work way more than you can work in Europe, right? You have the opportunity to
Hmm.
work a lot more in the US. Yes, people make their money. The truth is that some of the money gets burnt only within the economy based on bills and all of those. But then there are people who still have some that money that they want to invest. Then when you talk to these kinds of people, they'll tell you that, oh, there's nothing to invest in Cameroon. The only thing you can do in Cameroon is just to buy land. If you're not buying land, there is nothing much you can do. And that is coming from a box. And you know one thing with us Cameroonians, if one person thinks like that, the probability that the whole of that state would think like that is this high, because we know how to transfer our boxed brains into other people. It's very common. It's my experience. But again, with this general thing, I'm talking from the general, what's your whole conception about living out of the world, making the money, investing? If I've always wished that Cameroonians can do like a how do you call that thing? Crowdfunding or
Crowdfunding.
something?
Yeah.
Crowdfunding. I always feel like I have friends, again, not no pun intended, but I have Indian colleagues. And this guy told me about a crowd, like the different, he has done he has funded, like, or done crowd funded projects, and they're amazing. Wait to be wrong with Cameroonians. If only we could think, because the real somebody will tell you that I do not have enough money to maybe invest in a construction company in Cameroon, right? I can collect. People are building back home like crazy. We see people. I know at least 5 people who own resorts in Cameroon. Who is building all of these things, right? People who they want to have, how do you call it? They want to have, when you're working on something and you want accountability, you get it. But then I don't know. This is me just spewing out my thoughts, my own tiny little frustration. Somebody who has not even gone back home to invest massively, been burned twice, and I ran off. Like, what's your general thought about this whole investing in Cameroon? Since we just talked about these foreign companies are coming into the country.
So the first thing that I would say is that, like everything else, there are people that are very dishonest about doing business. And so even when I was in Cameroon, there's a lot of people that came up with projects, some agricultural things, all kinds of things, and then they'll raise money and not do anything. So the first thing I tell people is, like, when people come to you with projects, take time and do your homework. And if you're not sure, ask me. I have I've been involved. I've been around it long enough now where I can typically tell things that make sense. And also, I'll tell people, don't be trying to make a quick buck. Like, typically, my dad always told me, he said, if anything sounds too good to be true, then it's most definitely too good to be true. If somebody comes to the project and tells you, you can give me today and I'll give you 50% return in a year, it's ridiculous. There's no business out there that gives you that much money return. So don't be trying to make money too fast, because if you try, you're going to lose your money. That's one. The second thing is, I think we have to accept that entrepreneurship, doing business back home, is very difficult. That someone can actually want and do everything. No, that's not true. Can do everything they can to the best that they can and still not be successful. And when we invest into, like, investing back home cannot be, like, you cannot think that is a junkie. It's not. It has to be part to make money and part to support change.
Yeah.
And the question that I'll ask you was this: it's like, how many people do you know that have lost money in the stock market? A lot of money,
Mhm.
or on Bitcoin,
Man, I'm a
or
Bitcoiner.
on
I'm a Bitcoiner, so be careful.
no, but seriously, how many people do you know that have lost money in stocks, in Bitcoin, or whatever else you want to do? And
Mhm.
and I ask people all the time. I said, I know people that have lost thousands of dollars in
Mhm.
there,
Yeah.
and somehow, and this is, I think, is the irony, is that somehow we are okay with taking that risk and losing money with the stock in America, but then we're not okay with investing money into something back home that could work, but could also not work.
Mhm.
Somehow we seem to think that if something didn't work back home, then, oh, it was a waste of money. But then if we invest it here and it doesn't work, well,
Right.
I guess that's how it is. And I think we have to have that paradigm shift in the way that we approach investing back home, because it's no different from anything else. And to me, if I'm going to take a risk in the stock market and be willing to lose that money, then guess what? I'm also okay with taking that risk back home, because at the very least, if I lose the money back home, I know that I tried, I supported a valuable cause that is helping us overall, versus here in the stock market where I'm just feeding into the money machine that's
Yep.
America, right?
Yep.
So that's how I look at it.
That's true. It's that whole risk factor, right? And you made a comparison that again I'm a victim of, and is this whole. I was thinking there is this Nigerian actor. I think it's Ukwa. When countryman do it, or was say when white man do it, thing they go say a new style. When countryman do it, they go they holla kill him, knock him. Like it's so it's just making allusion to what you just said that hey, if we
Yep.
are losing money in the stock market here, it is like, okay, yeah, that was a risk I bore and it's gone. 50K is gone. David Prince is just making mention of knowing someone who
Yep.
lost 10K in the stock market. But then if you take that 10K and you put it in an investment project back in Cameroon and it fails, why is it that it hurts more than the stock market? Now you're
And
making
that's the
me
thing.
think about my own self because, of course, I have lost money on the stock market, not on Bitcoin because this girl is a Bitcoiner. I'm not recommending, but yeah, generally the stock market 2020, I did lose some money on the stock market because I bought stocks that I was not aware of. You know how you just go and you buy things because people say to buy without doing any research, right? But then a similar amount of money is what I said I put back home for investment and I lost it, and this guy just disappeared. And it maybe it pains me because it's somebody that I knew and I trusted, but I go who
Yeah.
responsible for stock market? Who knows? Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
And
again,
yeah,
I'm a victim
yeah,
of
and I think yeah, and I think when Skyview was doing really well, when I was
Mhm.
launching the app, and also one thing that I forgot to mention about how successful we were is that we actually got selected, entered into a competition with the app that we built at the end of 2020, in middle of 2022, for there was a competition by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for the best innovation in Africa, and we were selected number one in Central Africa and
I think I saw that. Hmm.
top 10 in Africa. So our app was actually, I mean, so we had some really, really high points, and the app did. I mean, it was a good time. Um, and so there was a lot of success that came from there. But what I was saying is that at the peak of our success, a
Hmm.
lot of people reached out to me. A lot of my friends reached out to me about investing. And at the time, I really needed the money. But again, I was also. It's important to me to be to be fair, right? I wasn't sure yet about what the future was going to look like, and
Look
to
like
me, for my relationships, I wanted to make sure that I had a little more information around the future. I had a little more certainty around the future before taking money from people.
yeah,
So the only money that I took from people were loans. I did not take any investments, for that specific reason, because I did not want to, you know yeah, I did not want to risk people's money, when I wasn't yet sure of where I was going. But I could have at that time. I really could have taken a lot of money from a lot of my friends, because a lot of people actually reached out and offered to give me money, and I said,
paying
just
ransom.
hang on for now,
Yeah,
hang on
because
for
they
now.
saw a
So
green
again,
light. Right? They saw a
yep,
green light. They saw that, hey, this thing is good. I personally believed in that project a lot, right? And that's why they're like, hey, this is a safe place to put my money. Because truth is, Rahul, there are people out here who are willing to put their money in Cameroon. And one thing is they just need, just like anybody, man, money is hard to come by. You get it? They just want to be able to know, to have a little bit of that. I was telling someone the other day that one of the reasons that the rich get richer is because they have more money and so they can risk more. And the more you risk, the more you can risk in this life, the more money you get back. To me, risk is equivalent to money. That's just if you cannot risk, there is no way. Then you just continue living your mediocre. Maybe not call it mediocre. You just continue living your regular, your average life on. But we cannot build wealth. We cannot become billionaires if we don't risk. That is how I look at life. Right? There's a small, but there is a little bit of risk that needs to get in there. And I would say that looking into this altogether, I still encourage people to find trustworthy projects in Cameroon and invest in because man, we pack our bags once in a while, even if you're just going back home on vacation, right? You want to go back home and have a good time. You don't want to go back home and meet it the same way you left it. Again, unfortunately, things have probably gone worse due to the crisis. But again, there is hope that things will get better. A few weeks ago, I was talking to Valerie Etia, and he was talking about an app that he's building, which is something like Uber to be used in Cameroon and stuff. And I think that that is a beautiful idea. I think that it is amazing. I pray that he faces his challenge. Of course, he has his own challenges going in with that kind of a project in Cameroon. But yes, the project goes live, I think, next month in April, right? Um, I want to hear how it goes. I'm so interested in it. And those are just small things. You want to be able to say, Raul, you leave Dallas and you get to Yaoundé and you have a ride waiting for you to pick you up to your next location. You can order your ride from wherever. I think it's beautiful. So this to me, those are some of the things I say when we come out here, we work for these people, we learn these things, we run projects. I'm very mad to hear that they will have a project of project management role in Cameroon, and they'll go hire somebody from abroad. I'm so mad hearing that. But of course, we have to put ourselves out there. We need to be able to do the things we have to do to to get out there. Yeah, I can rant
What
about this for another time, but yeah, go ahead.
one thing that I want to challenge what you just said though
Mhm.
is the fact that everybody that we need to that you can't make it without taking risk. I don't agree with that.
I, Rahul, even me said, even if I
I,
say yes to being your wife today, it is a risk.
so hang on. Let me tell you. Let me explain to you what I think.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
I think that we have to I think we have to the first thing that people have to do is figure out what they're made of. What is it like? We don't have the same predisposition. Someone can take a risk. Someone can lose $100,000, $300,000, and then be here smiling, and then another person will lose 2,000 and die from it.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
and
true.
and and
You're right.
and I think that I think it's very important that people understand what they are, what they can handle, and be true to yourself. Not just because, again, I think being able to make the most of what you're able to do and do that versus just saying, oh, to be a billionaire I have to do well. What being a billionaire shouldn't, why is that the goal, right? It should be about being happy, right? And you don't have like, Solange wants to be a billionaire. I'll tell you that I don't care about being a billionaire. I really don't. I care about making good money. I care about, living a good life, and raising my kids right and having impact. But I don't care about being a billionaire. Some other people may not, right? And I think I want people to think about what they need to be happy and take just enough risk to get that. Rather than just saying, pushing people to take more and more and more risk.
Risk
And then
then
before you want to hear
sustain.
someone had a heart attack here because, they've lost this or lost that or this and that. And that's it. I think that everybody doing what is true to them creates a balance in society,
You
and
see?
makes more healthy people.
Only you can debunk a point that I put out with so much energy. It can only be you, Raul. It can only be you. But yes, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Taking risks is about how much you can take. Not everybody can take similar. And again, this is me talking today. In 2020, I lost my, how do you call the money, the stimulus check that the American government gave out. I put that on the stock market and I lost mine. I was sick for 3 days. You get it? But today I have built that thing now. Today I'm talking as if I started like this, right? I didn't start
Hmm.
like this. So I agree with you. We can only take risk that you can sustain. Not everybody has that heart to lose anything or even to take a risk or anything,
Hmm.
right? So yep,
And some people,
thanks
some
for
people, that's the thing is that
answering
some
that.
people even, and that's the thing is that taking risk is not so much about whether you win or you lose.
Mm.
Sometimes just the fact of taking risks makes it to where some people can't even sleep because
Yeah.
it makes them anxious, it makes them uncomfortable, it makes them really, it's like, for me, it's not worth it. If you're going to take a risk, that's going to make you lower your life quality because you're never sleeping now because you're stressed all the time, then it may not be worth it for you. And people have to accept it. Don't just do it because everybody's taking risk everywhere and everybody's telling you how you have to take a risk to get this. It's like, forget that. I
I
don't
know
know
a
that
few
that's how
people
we
who
should be
cannot
living
take risks, and she's watching. I'd
life.
rather not call her name, but but I know that she
And I think,
hates risk.
and you can be and you can be very successful. I mean, there's this notion, and I think it's becoming like a bug in everybody's ears, like, oh, you have multiple sources of income to be successful. I think, to me, again, that's my opinion, so people don't get mad. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous to say that. I think you can have one career and be very, very good at what you do and live an excellent life without doing other things. Um, so do you?
That's Raul. Do you? Raul, we've been talking for an hour, more than an hour now. I promised you that this was going to be an hour show. And hey, I still want to say a big thank you to all of you who have joined us. Thank you to my star senders. I appreciate you so much. And for those of you commenting, talking to Raul on this live show, it's for me first. then because I was looking forward to catching up with him. And I'm so happy that we had this conversation. And again, what's next for you? I know that if you don't mind sharing, I know that you're still, when we talked some time ago, you was, man, you think how long? You think how long? Look at how finely cut you are. Look how neatly cut you are. What are you looking for in a woman? Does it have to be in some woman? I'll keep coming to this thing because I still don't understand why you have not got married to. But yes, aside from that, you're going to tell us why you're still single. But then, aside from the fact that I'm not sure why you're still single as a man, what again? Single is because I've not had marriage, or maybe girlfriend. They want no, no. I'm talking about marriage. All right. Mano put yourself as a person, Gary. But then aside from that, what next? With Skyview on hold, you're back in the US. Is there anything exciting? Is there anything you want to share with us?
No, thanks for having me. Like I told you, I wanted to come on just to get to share my experiences and my challenges because I think we don't do enough of that. And by not sharing these challenges, sometimes it gives people the impression that, if you work hard all the time, if you keep pushing, you always make it. And I think it's important that people understand that part of life is failure or challenges, and you can do the best that you can and do everything you can possibly do and it still not be enough. This applies to business, it applies to relationship, it applies to everything. And those things don't define us, right? So if your marriage didn't work, that doesn't make you a failure, or if your business didn't work, that doesn't make you a failure. What matters is that um, you did your best, um, and then you learned and you developed and you grew in the process and you're a better person. To me, it's important to send that message out there for people in every situation. So when they're facing with these challenges, they don't feel like, hey, if people find out about this, they'll think I failed, they'll think I'm this. It's like, no, that doesn't define me. And also, people wanted to do business, so they understand that you know you may not like people like you see a lot of the successes, but you will not see the failures. But there's a lot of it that's happening, and that's
Yeah.
part of the process. So personal life, again, like you said, one of my biggest challenge over the past few years has been instability. I've been in Cameroon, I've been in the US, I've been up and down, and that really impacted a lot of my personal life. So I decided that I need to settle down. I need to sit my ass down in the US for a little bit and try to rebuild and get back to some stable state, financially, geographically, everything. And part of that stable state is building another family. So it's still in process. It's a work in process. There's still
People
nothing
should not mind
nothing
me
in the
bugging
horizon.
Raul.
But then, like I said, I'm very passionate about the development of Africa in general. So I'm still working. I have projects till cows come home. So it's stuff that
Okay.
I'm working on. I'm working
Okay.
on personally now, just like working on my projects, slowly developing them. Um, Also trying to gain knowledge in the areas that I felt like I was lacking. So I'm also learning a lot of other things, developing my knowledge in other
Okay.
areas, such that when I'm ready to go this time, I'll be ready to go. Um, and that's it. But nothing exceptional. It's really just like, hey, okay, it's the next phase. It's the next phase.
Amazing. Thank you, Raul, again. I know you don't mind. I love to balk you with this whole you need this man wants to have more kids. He has two girls, two, right? Am I
No, I
correct?
have no. With my ex-wife, I have two boys and a girl.
Two boys and a girl. Yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
Hmm.
Yep. And
Yeah.
this man is I love to back him that he needs to because he's a family man. He wants to have more kids and
No, no,
you
I
can
want
have
more
more
now. Come
kids if
on.
you
You,
don't
you
get
want
married.
to you want to go and spoil my name. You want to spoil my name in the village. I only have three children. What did I come here? Come on now. What did I come here to do? That'd be a waste of no, I don't want to do
Yes,
it.
he wants to have
I
more
have
kids. Oh, oh, you're
I
such
need
an
I
amazing
need like two
person.
more.
I love chatting with you. It's always great. And hey, I don't know if you have any last words. I don't want to another Boban. There's a couple of people in the comment section who know you. And hey, I'm so happy that you made it today. I'm so happy that you made the time. I've had a great time. Chats whenever I have a guest that I can talk and laugh with, it just gives me that joy, that happiness that you talk about, right? It's not about the fact
Yeah.
that I know I have some bills to pay. It's more about what I feel at this moment as I'm talking to you. And sincerely, I do appreciate you so much for making the time and for contributing to this happy social babes' life. You get it? Do you have
Yeah.
any final words before we run it out?
No, the only thing that I will add is that life is about growth, right? I spoke to you 2 years ago. I was at a specific place. I was thinking a certain way. I had certain projects, and since then, my mindset has evolved on certain things. And I think it's okay to acknowledge that even as we're speaking today, like nobody has figured everything out. I think the worst mistake that you could make is to think that you have figured it out, because nobody has. Um, we learn as we go. We have opinions. We can defend them. I'll defend my positions today, but then as time goes on, as I get more information, as I learn, I experience more things, then my thinking is going to evolve on a lot of topics. And I think that's part of life. We should embrace it and accept it, and just keep, you know, just keep working at improving. And I also want to tell you thank you for having me. I'm proud of your evolution and everything that you've done. Like I told you, seeing from where you started in the beginning, to where you are today, and just how more comfortable you are, and how well structured and organized your platform is. I think it's a testament of the work that you've put into it as well. And it's also very inspiring looking at it, um, for me and other people looking to, embark on journey, things that they're really not comfortable with, that I don't know anything about. So kudos
Yo,
to you.
thanks, Raul. Thank you so much. My heart is pumping right now. And hey, I just want to thank you too. I keep saying it. You were my pioneer guest, the third guest on my podcast. At that time, guys, if you look at the post I put before my live reel, we'll go and check that video out. Go and look at the quality of that video. Go and see how I sat. Look at the way I talked, right? So you can, when Raul is saying that he has seen the involvement, it's because he knows what he's talking about. So this is just an encouragement for you who is doing something and you feel like, hey, this is a down for me. Time heals. I believe in the process. I believe in long term. I am not a get rich quick kind of person. I believe in long term goals. And to me, that is what this podcast has gone through, right? It has gone through that process. It's getting better. And as time goes on, Raul, I keep one day this girl will retire with a show of her own. And I just have to wake up every morning, do my makeup, sit and talk to people like you and make money out of that. That is my retirement dream. Someday, sort of babes will get there. Thank you, Raul,
You'll
for
get there.
trusting me, for trusting my platform, for saying yes on this Saturday morning, and just for making me laugh, for just lighting up my Saturday as we prepare for Easter. Thank you again so much. I do appreciate your time.
No, thanks for having me. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you.
Bye bye.
Sure. Hey guys, this was amazing. Thank you all for joining. I see all your comments. I see all of you who joined. If you have any specific questions for Raul, let me know. Again, this was a podcasty kind of show, so I didn't get to like read each comment as they go, but of course, with an eye glance, I was able to respond to some of the comments that you put added. I do appreciate you all so much for trusting your girls so babes. I thank you all for spending the time on this platform. And please keep recommending the page. If you're listening to my podcast, if you're watching this and you have not reviewed my page yet, please kindly go and write a review on the You Can Be Anything podcast. And when you do that, Facebook's algorithms is going to recommend the page to more people. Slowly but surely, I'm almost at 5K followers. And to me, it is more important that I build this people, I build this platform where people trust that they can come onto for a certain kind of content. I do appreciate you all so much. Thanks again for trusting your girls so babes. For those of you who celebrate Easter, I wish you a happy Easter. Remember, a single act of kindness can change the world. So do your part and be good to each other. Till we meet again, most probably, maybe, I'll see you on Sunday Fun Day tomorrow with the Roy Mama Show. But until then, stay blessed and I love you. Bye bye.